Hey, it's America's Supermom. Thank you for joining me on my podcast. This series is the Corona Chronicles. I created this so that we would have an outlet of positivity in the midst of a lot of negativity. You know what I'm talking about. All the news, the fear around this virus, how it can affect us, what the new normal is looking like, and how so many things have changed that a lot of people feel like um, it is the end of the world, so to speak. So, this podcast was created so that those of us who have hope, who are willing to move forward with this new normal and innovate new things that will help us to be creative and positive. That is what this platform is for us to come together and share that positivity and that light with those who may need it. So if you're interested in sharing your insight, please reach out because we can never have enough positive news. So sit back and enjoy the show.
I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I'm really excited with my next guest, Paul Long. I actually have not met him. We were connected through Dr. Nat, who did a LinkedIn live interview with him. So he had some great insight. I loved his philosophies on a number of things, which we will dive into during the interview. But at this time, I'm going to give him the floor so that he could introduce himself before we get started.
Well, thank you. And by the way, it is an honor being here. And any devotee of Dr. Natalia Chinsky is a devotee of mine. I admire her as one of the top people I've ever met in my life. Mm-hmm. So, real quick piece of background. Right now, I have launched a new endeavor called ProBoomer, and mm-hmm. The fundamental concept behind it is that a lot of people approach retirement age with kind of a general notion of thinking, oh, I'll just retire. You know, you spend your whole life planning and working toward a career, building a family, building a life. And then there's just notion that, oh, you know, I'll hit 62, 65 and retire. Mm-hmm. That isn't working anymore. And it maybe never even worked all that well anyway. It really is based on the way things were almost 100 years ago, when the average lifespan of the American worker or workers in Western countries was 65. And so you could retire and have a couple of years to rest before you passed on. Well, with increased lifespan and increased health span and the way the world is and the way the generation that's now in retirement age, you know, is in terms of, if you look back at the 60s, it was about defining your own life and making a difference. And, you know, we think of protest marches and things of that sort, but those were manifestations of it. So what's happening now is that a lot of people are retiring and they go through the retirement honeymoon, which means, oh, it's great. I don't have to get up and go to work and I can do this project and that project. And for many, it doesn't last. And that's why there's a huge spike in the number, in the amount of alcoholism, drug abuse, divorce, depression, even suicide among people who say, as some therapists have told me, I'm failing at retirement. Well, you've lost purpose. You've lost relevance. You've lost the challenges in life that, by the way, you're a wonderful case study about how fulfilling and meaningful that makes one's life. So ProBoomer brings that awareness to it, but also the awareness that because of this increased lifespan and health span, and the way of the world in technology and entrepreneurialism or continuing to work or pivoting into something else, is actually this incredible opportunity that has never existed in humankind to almost think of it like going off to college or graduating high school or whatever. When you look at this road ahead and all the possibilities and the things that you can do, the people that you're going to make, the differences that you can affect, well, you can have that again, except you're at this stage of life where you know even better now. You know, you had the career and you had kids and you did all these things. And now you can say, this is my turn. What is it that I want or need to do in whatever terms, because it doesn't have to be starting a business or a full-time job. It can be anything, but it's this time to really kind of, in some ways, live the life that's really appropriate to you in terms of your passion and your purpose. So we also offer tools and insights on that. And by the way, real quick background, I'm a third generation news person. I was in television news. I was in a newsroom when I was 2 weeks old. I grew up in that business. Left news because I thought it was going down the toilet back in 1989. It's gone deep. It is out to sea at this point. And so I grew up in the business, but in the intervening years, besides maintaining a relationship with my sim companion since college, raised two incredible sons, and I had a content creation business. So creating and developing and producing every kind of video imaginable. I live in Southeast Michigan, so a lot of stuff for, well, not just the big three American car makers, but almost every car maker in the world. And I am a case study because I'm like, now what? Now what do I want to do with my life as I enter my life? And it's like, as grateful as I was for my content creation business, I wanted to do something more relevant. I wanted to have an impact. I wanted to do something that fit what I'm good at doing and what I enjoy doing and what's meaningful to me, but I wanted more meaning out of my life. I wanted to make an impact and make a difference. And so I hope that wasn't too long, but
no, that was excellent, you know, because there's so many different areas that I definitely want to dive into. The first thing is, you know, since this is the current state of affairs today, is with the news, you know, being able to be in that industry and have a background. And what do you think were the indicators to you back then about the news taking a different turn, so to speak?
Well, back then, and I'll acknowledge being, you know, obviously something of a student of it and things of that sort. Certainly, virtually every news enterprise on earth is a commercial enterprise. And so you have to have viewers, listeners, and readers. And to some degree, you certainly need to do the kinds of things that are going to give you good ratings or have people buy or tune in. And back then it was sensationalism, which is not news to the news industry. I mean, you can go back to, you know, the early 1800s, and there was all sorts of sensationalism, and, you know, if it bleeds, it leads, that kind of thing. And that's understandable to a degree, but there was still thoughtful journalism. The incredibly disturbing and thing that's going on in our world today, which has a greater and deeper impact on our society than I believe anybody fully recognizes, is that today people are not seeking information, they are seeking validation. And so when you look at how many news organizations, and you may want to put some of those in quotation marks, are spinning the news, are by virtue of the way they put forth a story or the things that they include or don't include in that story that is toward a political or social opinion, conservative, liberal, alt-right, extreme left, whatever. And so the fact is that if I'm in one of those political categories, I'm going to listen to and seek news outlets that are going to spin everything in that kind. They're going to tell me what I want to hear. That is not informing me, because I even did a test over a 2-week period where I went on numerous sites every morning and looked at similar stories, or sometimes what stories were on and what weren't. And it was what I already knew, but it was even more stunning when I saw, my gosh, if I had read this story on this channel and read this story on this channel, you know, singularly, I wouldn't have had a clue as to, you know, other aspects of the story. And so consider this. There is only one profession outside of government that is in the Constitution, and that is the press. Our founding fathers, called for freedom of the press because fundamental to our democracy, actually really we're a republic, but fundamental to our society was an informed electorate, people knowing what they needed to know in order to be responsible and active citizens. So a very serious question we need to start asking ourselves, is that the case today? Are we able to do that because we aren't necessarily getting an accurate view of what's going on?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. And, for people who don't really have a desire to learn and consciously evolve, they're going to gravitate towards the things that, feed their ego, so to speak, or news that they want to hear rather than even being open to hearing different opinions.
Yeah, again, it's a validation rather than information. So yeah, what a lot of people of across the spectrum, they're getting news tailored to support their current opinions and perspective on things, and not to invalidate their opinions and perspectives on things. But I mean, how many times have we thought one thing and then somehow we hear it from another point of view, or we hear facts that we hadn't heard, and we're like, oh, I didn't realize that. Oh, that's different. Well, that doesn't happen much in the industry that's supposed to be serving our country.
So true.
Yeah.
That's profound. So yeah, that is good. Now, so what would you say would be a good way for people who, especially now with the climate of, we've got these racial injustices and, differences of opinion about that, in terms of getting back to an informed, so to speak, decision? What's the best way to communicate in a way that we can accomplish that with people from opposing sides sitting at a table?
Wow. That is inherently a challenge, as we all know, and especially when it is a highly emotional and incredibly significant topic and issue that affects all of us in different ways, and of course, some people acutely. I don't have a great answer other than it kind of goes back to that validation versus information. If it were possible for, there's the old cliche of, walking in someone's shoes, which none of us can do.
Absolutely.
I'm a privileged white male, so there's absolutely no way I can truly relate to what it means to be an African American or a woman or any other socioeconomic, racial, ethnic, sexual, gender preference, whatever. There's absolutely no way I can do it. But I think if you try to understand and also look at, why do I consider their who they are a threat to me?
Right.
Now, I also grew up in Texas and South Carolina, and where I grew up in Dallas, and back when I grew up in Dallas, there just wasn't much mixing of races.
Right.
Now, in South Carolina, when I moved there in high school, there was. And surprisingly, everything was kind of cool. Everybody just got along, which I was really surprised about. But well, I'll share a story with you, and I think it really does come down to understanding. So, and I need to be circumspect about the details, but someone I talked to who is a professional consultant, kind of in the human resources world, had one of their clients wanted kind of an engagement with a rather large staff on this matter of Black Lives, the Black Lives Matter situation. And obviously it was a mixed group, 3 African Americans in the group. And so this person set up a Skype call or a Zoom or whatever with everyone. And 3 people were the African Americans, and she set ground rules to kind of protect everybody, but also encouraged everybody to speak. The bottom line outcome of this was that for the non-African Americans who knew these people and, professional organization and such like that, to actually start hearing the stories. So this is kind of walking in someone else's shoes. To actually hear the stories of what these people and their family and their kids went through and are going through had an incredible impact. And here again, it even goes back to the news thing. It changed things for the better. And why? Because there was an understanding. There was an understanding rather than a notion. And hopefully with the dialogue, and some of it harsh and filled with conflict, but nevertheless, these things aren't easy. Things will turn around. And by the way, I'll say that this extends in so many groups. In my ProBoomer efforts, I'm even going to be changing the name, because now that I've gotten into it, I've been learning this generational thing, because we're doing the same thing that we do with race and gender and all the other distinctions.
Tell me about it.
We are doing the same thing with generations. And
we need to say that again.
You say it for me. You say it.
We are doing the same thing with generations. I mean, we are just doing the same thing. I'm
Absolutely.
telling you, it is so true. Yeah.
And I caught myself, and I slapped myself across the wrist that, I'm characterizing millennials, and I'm characterizing boomers. And I really asked the question in the first place, when did we start naming generations?
Right.
Boomers were really the first. You can say, well, there was the greatest generation, which was the World War II generation, but it's like, no, Tom Brokaw really coined that. I think somebody may have done that before him. Somebody said the silent generation. Well, Time Magazine said that back in the 50s when the McCarthyism was going on. Is this going to be a silent generation? But the point, and then here's the thing, is it possible to have a generational gestalt, meaning you can just do a broad brushstroke and say this generation is like this? Are you kidding me? In the first place, I'm a younger boomer, barely. My brother and sister are significantly older than I am. There is they are a different generation. Then they were old enough to, although they didn't, but they were old enough to march and things of that sort. I wasn't. And to say, my 2 sons are millennials and they do not fit the millennials. These are stereotypes. Absolutely. Based on presumptions and assumptions. So, you can stereotype me by, first of all, the way I look, because of my age. But you can't stereotype me by the way that I am and the way that now people are making a distinction of not what's your chronological age and what's your bio age, meaning what kind of physical condition are you in. Here's a real quick story too. So in my other business, which is a very creative business, developing videos and things of that sort for companies. I had a couple of instances where having a conference call with a group of people from both the client side and other agencies. And we start talking about ideas and how are we going to do this and things of that sort. And then there was a face-to-face meeting. And I literally had a couple of instances where some of the people, like from the other agencies who didn't know me, now saw me in person. And one person actually said, "Oh my goodness, I thought you were like 30. And I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure how to take that, but I'll take it as good. Thank you. Okay. But it's like it's an ageist thing. But there's this stereotype and assumption and presumption that because I'm of my age, that somehow I'm not creative anymore. Of course, some of the most creative work and most brilliant scientific work and social work and everything else has been committed by people later in age, because you never lose that. You never lose that. And in fact, to me, I'm better today. And I can't tell you how many colleagues of my era say the same thing. I'm better now than I ever was, because I'm learning and I'm perfecting and I've tried and failed and pivoted, you know. And so then we ascribe these things to millennials that, okay, well, millennials, they are, you know, they're the people to be entrepreneurs. Well, baby boomers as a demographic start up twice the number of businesses every year than millennials do, and have a 7 in 10 chance of success versus a 4 in 10 chance on the part of millennials. But yet the perception is 100% different than that. And by the way, why with the boomers? Well, one, people are realizing, like I said earlier, the direction that we're going, the opportunities that exist. Some are doing it because of ageism. They can't get a job and they still need to make money, so they need to start an enterprise. But they also have the knowledge and the skills and the refined talents and the networks and the contacts with which to succeed at a business. So the bottom line that everything that almost virtually everything that we're talking about here is that we have these presumptions and assumptions. They're almost notions. And by a notion, I mean, it's just something you assume and you haven't really thought about, right? Of what these ages are, who African Americans and Swedes are, and also what it is to be of this age. Somehow, after history, throughout human history, older people being venerated for their knowledge and perfection of skills and talents are being told, shut up and go away. And I'm actually working on a blog right now that's like, and I haven't figured out the title yet, but it's like, you know, no matter your age, ageism hurts you. And it's because it's going to, and that's a terrible title. I won't use that one. But the point is that, you know, if you're 27 years old, someday, God willing, you are going to be 60, 70, 80 years old. And you're going to want to be relevant. You're probably still going to want to be doing something with your life. You certainly aren't want to be have a prejudice asserted towards you because of your age. So do yourself a favor, root for us to break that and support.
I love that. And, you know, you brought up some good points about being creative and having the knowledge, the skills, the wisdom. You know, what do you attribute that to? Because, you know, even though that is true in many cases, there are some people that is not true for. You know, they lack purpose. They get stuck into their routines. You know, this is how we've always done it. And, you know, they are afraid to do a video on Facebook, you know, or get with the younger generation and, you know, contribute their knowledge to them. So what things do you practice that keeps you relevant?
You know, I think I'm fortunate in that to some degree, this is for whatever reason, the way that I am and the way that I'm wired. But you raise an incredibly important point here, in that humans, we sometimes just automatically do what we think that we're supposed to do. And that's the way that it's always been done. What the boomers did in the 60s was to not accept what was on offer and to say, I'm not going to do what my parents and society expects me to do. And there was a groundswell. It became a movement of which all the manifestations of the 60s, and not all of them were good, you know, manifested themselves. But, you know, I've been talking with and working with Richard Leider, who wrote The Power of Purpose and Unpack Your Bags and Reimagining Work, Reimagining Life. And here's a couple of really good insights from him that I think we can all take into account. In the first place, what you described was the default life. It's living your life the way you think you're supposed to do. And, you know, here's the gauge. How do you feel when you get up in the morning on a Monday morning? How do you feel, you know, about that alarm clock going off? Is it dread? Is it, oh, I'd give anything to stay in bed? Or are you getting out of bed excited? Are you lying in bed for 30 seconds and being grateful, which we should all do irrespective of our work situation? You know, you cannot be unhappy if you're being grateful. It's impossible. But we get into this default life. Now, there is an opportunity, silver lining, with this pandemic and COVID situation. So first of all, change. Our brains are literally wired against change. It is something that evolved as a species, as a defense mechanism. And so change comes hard to every single one of us. However, when we are thrust into a change situation, which Richard Leider relates as external, it is a chance for us to transform or transition. It opens things up. And you can ask yourself, and I've been putting forth, even if you've lost your job. Now, you know, if you've instantly got to make money right now, then go make money right now. But if you've got that moment to say, now what am I going to do? What kind of a job am I going to go after? What kind of a thing am I going to do? This is an opportunity to identify purpose. What would I find purposeful? What would be meaningful to me? What fits in with my green? Re-examining your skills and taking them out of the context of how you were applying it in your current job and realizing that those tools and skills can translate into thousands of different things. It's like a screwdriver. You've been using it for this, but it can do 50 other things. And so if you've got to pivot and transition and transform your life, do it in a direction that's purposeful and meaningful to you, because that is one benefit of when you get to this stage of life, this third stage, as I call it, is that you're more aware not only of the things that you're passionate about, and I'm not talking about golf or sex, I'm talking, those are hobbies or whatever. I'm talking about, you know, what things are meaningful to you and what you would find purposeful and fulfilling to do, because, you know, we get one crack at this thing, life. And you want to make the most of it and not have the number one dying regret on the lips of people, which is, I coulda, shoulda, woulda.
So true. And I mean, I love this whole thing about, you know, finding your purpose, your passion, and things of that nature. And do you kind of think that maybe we wait too long to have this type of dialogue with ourselves? Because, you know, I was one who was raised, education was important, went to college, and, you know, it's like this, you know, plan that's already prepared for me. You get a good job, you know, you work there, have a family, and then purpose really does not even come into the situation until you have some life-altering event. You know, in my case, it was depression that I struggled with, you know, as a mom raising my children. So do you think that there's some element that we probably should address this when people are younger to kind of get on that road sooner?
I believe that it is possible. You know, there's so many characterizations of the fact that things happen when you're ready for them to happen. So you raised, you know, so you made your transformation when you were fundamentally ready to happen. A very challenging life event occurred with you, or you certainly hear people who have near-death experiences or go through some sort of incredible tribulation, as people are doing now. You know, people are being more reflective of what's really important in life. So, you know, there are inevitably these situations that help open our eyes again, get rid of that change resistant that's wired into us. and goes, wait a minute, what's really important to me? I mean, when I was
Mm-hmm.
raising kids, I was the same thing, man. I mean, and you know better than I. You've got more than I had, and I don't know how you do it, but
Prayer.
yeah, well, but and to have transformed yourself in the midst of all of this makes you,
Mm-hmm.
you're on the wall of heroes for this.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so, by the way, everyone, if she can do it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, you do reach this phase of life, and that's what when you're older, and it's like, okay, the kids are gone, I'm kind of done with my career or what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
And do I want a 40-year vacation? I get antsy after 2 weeks,
Right.
and that's what the perception of retirement is. And so it's I think with this awareness of like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I don't have to live the default. Oh, yeah, there is more to, and then it's like looking for this bringing awareness to it,
Mm-hmm.
and then looking for that opportunity and awareness. I love the phrase where attention goes, energy flows. And if you say, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
start thinking about this, I'm going to put awareness to it. And when you're showering or brushing your teeth or driving, all of a sudden you start thinking about it. And that is 80% of the effort right there. You're
Mm-hmm.
80% there just because you put your attention on it. And
Mm-hmm.
you can have this impact on your life, and then you become a role model for other people around you, and then whatever you end up doing has an impact on other people, and all of a sudden we're massively improving life on this earth.
I love that. Now, and this will be the last question. This time just flew by. I've definitely enjoyed this
Oh,
dialogue.
me too.
So, where do you have the transition from doing something that really fulfills you? So in the case where a lot of people are, at this retirement age, so to speak, and they still say, you know what, there's more to me than just retiring. And they have this desire to where it becomes like a community mindset. So it's not just you doing it for you, but you doing it for others as well. What took place for that transition to occur?
With me,
Mm-hmm.
um, it happened not unlike what I was just talking about. It happened very, I'll put in quotation marks, organically. It
Mm-hmm.
just started happening. In the first place, I started seeing what was going on. I've got journalism in my blood, which means you love telling people about things, and nothing's better to
Mm-hmm.
tell people about than something they're not aware of. I saw what was going on around me through my family, through friends, through society, and everything else. And it just started growing, and it went here and it went there. But all of a sudden, it wasn't like this cognitive moment or doing a whiteboard,
Mm-hmm.
writing things out. It just kind of evolved. And so I would say to this is that, because I was thinking, I'm grateful for all this work that I've been doing, and I love my clients and the people who I work with, and I get to do cool stuff, but I need something else.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it evolved into this. And I'll say this other thing: there is no there. I mean, I've really just started with this thing, and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've been developing it for a couple of years, but I was so busy I really couldn't get it, put much attention to it. It was very scattered. Well, over the last 5 months, I've really been rocking and rolling on this.
Mm-hmm.
Ergo, you and I connecting. And what
Mm-hmm.
I'm knowing is I've got so far to go to really get to even a decent point with it. But there is joy in the journey. I've already succeeded, because
Mm-hmm.
right now, I am grateful and enjoying talking with you about what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing an interview of some people this afternoon. The people I've been meeting, or like we post
Mm-hmm.
something and we get this great response. Oh, this really meant, or this is just what I needed today, or something like that. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, it's
Mm-hmm.
fun, and I'm learning stuff. And you got on the phone and it's going, oh, this technology, it makes me so nervous,
Mm-hmm.
but you're learning
Mm-hmm.
neuroplasticity. They've learned that no, you don't stop growing brain cells when you're 22 years old. You actually continue to grow them as long as you're learning something new. So you're keeping yourself
Mm-hmm.
healthy. So the whole journey is worth it no matter what milestones of success you achieve.
I love that. Yeah, and that is so true. And I mean, learning can be an addiction if you keep it moving. Because there's so many different new things that can happen when you allow those opportunities or when you just follow those opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
you get the momentum, you get in a groove. And by the way, for anyone thinking about wanting to do something, the number one killer of ideas and potential is that at that moment when you're beginning, you're like, but I don't know how to do it. That kills 90% of all the ideas. No, instead, you focus on the next 1%. You have this ultimate goal, but you don't think about it's like I'm going to go to the gym every day. Well, if you think about going to the gym every day, you'll fail. But if you think at 4:00, I'm putting my shoes on and grabbing my gym bag, you'll succeed. And it's the same thing with any great life thing.
Yeah, I love that because, that's the thing. We have the ability to visualize things, which can be a curse because we visualize the finished product, but we don't know the steps to get there. And so instead of admitting, hey, I don't know the steps to get there, which we think is a form of weakness, we end up not doing anything because so that's awesome. Well, this has just been wonderful. And I'm definitely going to have you back because this, we just had some great conversation and so many other questions. I could keep going. But what is the best way for the audience to get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me through my site, ProBoomer.com.
Okay.
So that's PRO Boomer, BOOMER.com. You can reach out to me there. You can subscribe for free. I send very few emails, and it's always to kind of either share something special or alert people to content or things of that sort. And and by the way, I'm always open for suggestions, ideas, and feedback. Trying to build a community.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I am so glad that you took out some time for us to connect today. And I am looking forward to us connecting again in the future.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Well, you have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on this episode. I really enjoy providing content that inspires and challenges us to be a better version of ourselves. If you are interested in being a guest on the show, please email me at info@LachelleAtkins.com. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Pinterest, or my YouTube channel. If there was something in this episode that resonated with you, it probably will resonate with someone else. So please share it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. But those aha moments, those moments of really getting something and changing your perspective are very, very pivotal in having people change the trajectory of their lives. And so being able to share insightful information so that other people can grow is the easiest thing that we can do as we pay it forward. So again, I want to thank you all for listening. And if you have time, write out a review. Go to iTunes, Anchor, wherever you can find this podcast on any of those platforms and write a review about what impact this episode had on you, what you learned, or whatever. Any feedback is great because it just helps me to understand what content is really beneficial for those that are listening. So again, I want to thank you all for your support and taking the time to spend some time with me and my guests. And I wish you a wonderful day. Thanks for listening.